That's not masculine. That's toxic masculinity.
Buzzword. The buzzwords. Okay. What is toxic masculinity?
There is that kind of perception where I guess men can't like show emotion or stuff like that. I feel like, or they just get so mad, or like their emotions are so high where they end up showing it in anger.
This is about to be a good one. Alright, so let's get into it. Toxic masculinity, right? I know y'all probably heard that term before, especially if you on social media, on TikTok or whatnot. All these different, different apps and shit. I know you heard the term toxic masculinity before. So how I came up with this video idea, right? This was something that I've been thinking about for a little while. I haven't really thought about it too much, but I've been I had it in the back burner in my mind, right? Until I came across the video I showed y'all, and that really just got me wondering to think, what is toxic masculinity? Because this isn't a term that I use on my day-to-day basis. I don't just go around saying, oh, that right there is toxic masculinity, or oh my gosh, like I don't use that word like at all. So I don't be on social media like that. So I didn't really know what that word was. All I know is that it's a pop culture term and it gets used a lot by women to essentially insult men. Whenever I watch these videos or like these podcasts, I just hear this word get thrown over and over again. A woman will probably say, oh, that guy, he's part of the toxic masculinity movement or some shit. I hear something like that, but I never really understood what it meant. So I let my curiosity get the best of me, and I did a little research, did a little Google searching. I took time on my own day and just really study and lock in to see what toxic masculinity is all about. And as I did my research and was looking up toxic masculinity, although I do think toxic masculinity is indeed a problem, like it is a real thing, but I feel like there's more to it than what people say in these videos. And there's a bigger issue at hand than what most people are talking about. But I don't want to rush things too much. I don't want to get too far ahead in this video. First, we should define what toxic masculinity is, because you're anything like me, like how I was 2 days ago, literally you probably have no idea what toxic masculinity even means, right? And I'm going to actually give y'all a Google definition and just try to sum it up in my own words after, but I'm going to give y'all a little definition of what toxic masculinity means. Alright, so I pulled up the definition of toxic masculinity and I'm going to read it right now. Toxic masculinity is an attitude or set of social guidelines stereotypically associated with manliness that often have a negative impact on men, women, and society in general. So basically what it's trying to say is behaviors that men, exhibit that makes them seem as if they're more masculine, but they're actually doing more harm than good to society, to themselves, to the people around them, and how this is negatively impacting the world and creating a toxic environment. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of research about toxic masculinity, and I wouldn't say a lot, but I've done enough research for me to feel like I can adequately talk about this topic to some extent. And in order for us to tackle this toxic masculinity argument, we have to first understand what masculinity is itself. So I'm gonna again pull up some I'm gonna pull up some definitions of what masculinity is and compare that to toxic masculinity. We're gonna talk from there. Masculinity refers to the roles, behaviors, and attributes seen as appropriate for boys and men in a given society. In short, masculinity refers to society's expectations of males. In many societies, boys and men are expected to be strong, active, aggressive, tough, daring, heterosexual, emotionally impressive, and dominant. This is enforced by socialization, media, peers, and a host of other influences. And it plays out in the behavior of many boys and men. So literally, masculinity is actions that's appropriate for men and males in general. And this literally is being, dominant, being assertive, being strong, being active, all these things that describe what it is for, what it means to be a male. These are all, tied into masculinity. So my thoughts on toxic masculinity, right? Toxic masculinity, if we were talking about toxic masculinity, we're basically talking about how these traits right here can be negatively impacted in men, how it can negatively impact women and society, right? These traits right here. And although, yes, it is possible for these traits to be used in an incorrect way, it is possible for, men to abuse their power and to be aggressive in the wrong, context, be assertive when men should be more compassionate. And with these actions, right, if we use them negatively and use them in an incorrect way, they can lead to very serious, consequences. It can lead to death. It can lead to, harming other people. It can lead to, self-delete. It can lead to a lot of, very negative things due to trying to adhere to these, qualities that, defines being a man. For example, a way masculinity could be used in a negative way is being very aggressive, being like super like, forceful in your like the way you try to like, handle people, especially when it comes to like family, friends, relationship. You're very like, you try to coerce people, you try to force people to, abide by how you do things because you feel like you're correct. A lot can be tied into the fact that, men are raised in a certain way, and we have to abide by this sort of, guidelines for us to be seen as masculine, because we don't want to be outcast or be, deemed as like someone that is outside of the pack. Because if everyone is moving in a certain type of way and this is what it means to be a masculine man, and you're showing that, you're not a part of that. You're showing that you're not a part of that. You're against what society deems as correct. You'll end up like being in situations like shit, men not even respecting you, women not want to date you, women not wanting to be with you, people don't know, kids won't look up to you because you're not this masculine figure. So us men, we try so hard to adhere to these sort of like traits just so we can be seen as masculine and just so we can feel as if we are doing the right thing. Sometimes this can go too far. There's very thin lines and boundaries that can be easily crossed, and that right there is what leads to a lot of these, traits being used in a negative light, which causes toxic masculinity to be a thing. And although I feel like, yes, toxic masculinity is an issue, it is a serious issue, I feel like toxic masculinity is not the problem. It isn't the problem that, we should be focused on, because there's a bigger issue at hand that we're not even looking at. And we're all just focused on this one aspect of that problem, because toxic masculinity is an effect of this bigger problem. And, you seeing these women on these podcasts throwing around, oh, toxic masculinity. They don't realize that they themselves are part of why toxic masculinity is even a thing. Because I'm not trying to sit here and say that, it's women's fault or anyone's fault. It's not anyone's fault. It is what it is. But, the reason why toxic masculinity is even a thing is because of this toxic culture that we live in. There's this toxic society that accepts toxic masculinity, and it creates this sort of like environment where men can negatively impact other people. It creates this negative environment where men are, doing everything they can to hold up to this sort of standard that society has placed on them, and it essentially gone wrong, bro. It went wrong, and they are now impacting niggas, impacting women, impacting kids, impacting everyone in a negative way. I got this source right here, a WebMD, right? And it essentially goes over what toxic masculinity is, right? And some of the traits and some of the signs of toxic masculinity. For example, it says some of the traits are like need for control, risk taking, stoicism. Really, these are negative, these are toxic masculinity signs, but these are also the same signs that what makes a man masculine in the first place. These are also the same, traits that is what's within regular masculinity. How is being stoic toxic, right? How is being stoic toxic? How is, taking risks toxic? And it's like, it's not the fact that it's toxic, it's the fact that these traits that are neither toxic nor positive, these are very neutral traits, are used in negative ways. And the reason why they are pushed in a negative light is because of the society that we live in, is because of the society that is, conforming to these sort of, negative aspects of how men, should, express what it means to be, masculine. These non-toxic traits become toxic because of our toxic society that we live in. And it's crazy because, like, we've placed so much focus in toxic masculinity, that we're completely ignoring the fact that this society is what created toxic masculinity. And these non-toxic traits are literally becoming toxic and literally being seen as toxic masculinity because of the society that is pushing this toxic masculinity agenda. And you can argue that, oh no, the society isn't pushing this toxic masculinity agenda. It isn't pushing this toxic masculinity agenda. If it really isn't, then why are women always going after the toxic niggas? Why is it the toxic guy? Why is it the bad guy that's always winning? There's so many examples I could give, but yet it's men's fault. It's men's fault that we are exhibiting this, toxic masculinity sort of like ideology. It's our fault though, but it's not the society that pushes us to go to those sort of boundaries. And I'm not sitting here saying men don't deserve to take any form of accountability for them being the one carrying on with these, actions and these, toxic masculinity traits. I'm not saying men don't deserve to take any accountability, but I am saying that it's a bigger issue. Yeah, you can say, men are, pushing this toxic masculinity shit. We're the ones saying that other men can't cry and shit, but it's bigger than just us men that are pushing this shit. I guess you could say, men should be, be comfortable crying, I guess. You know what I'm saying? It's our fault that toxic masculinity is a thing. I guess you could say that. But can you really just blame us for this sort of like thing that's going on when the society, literally everyone around us is encouraging this sort of shit too? Like, yeah, you can kill the one roach that's in the kitchen, but like if you don't fucking plug up the hole that's in the wall where the roaches are coming from, the toxic society is going to continue to breed more toxic masculinity, and that shit is it's going to be always there. It's always going to be there as long as until we actually address the actual issue, the real issue, which is the society and how we, make men try to conform to these sort of like masculine, traits and adhere to this like form of masculinity. Toxic masculinity will always exist. It's not easy. It's not easy being a man, bro. It's really not easy, bro. Like, yeah, I guess you can try to follow all the guidelines of what it means to be masculine and be a real man. But with this toxic society, it's going to be almost impossible. It's going to be hard as hell to not exude any sort of like toxic traits along the way. It's going to be hard as hell for those traits, those masculine qualities. It's gonna be hard for that shit to not get out of hand and become toxic itself, because this is just a cycle of this is a toxic cycle that we just live in. I want to help niggas become the best version of themselves, bro. I want to help men become the best version of themselves, and as me, I'm also trying to be the best version of myself too. I'm also trying to work on myself and do the best I can to fix my wrongs, bro. Like, fix my wrongs. Yeah, I ain't perfect. I'm not perfect at all, but you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do my best. And I also want to see other men succeed. So, like, I don't want other men to, like, feel like they fall under this sort of, like, toxic masculinity. Like, I don't want them to, like, fall under that umbrella, bro. I don't want them to fall under that umbrella. I want them to be masculine, but in a healthy way. But I feel like the best thing we can do as men for us to not continue the cycle and to stop it is just be mindful of our impact. I guess it's just be mindful of our impact and, like, see how your action is affecting the next person. See how it's affecting, the women around you, the children around you, society as a whole, how it's affecting you, yourself, how your actions are affecting you. It's hard. It's really hard trying to be that. But, you know, I feel like with the right help and just learning how to actually, you know, control that, you know, sort of those things that you have within you, like the testosterone, learn how to control it and keep it in balance, then you won't have to continue to breed this sort of toxic masculinity, like, you know, ideas onto other men, until like the younger men that's coming after us, the kids, the young boys that's coming after us. You won't continue to, you know, push those ideas, those toxic masculine ideology. But it's much easier said than done, bro. It's much easier said than done. And I don't know, I'm gonna just try to do my best to be the best I can be, while also helping people be the best that they can be. So yeah. Yes, this was a long video. This was an interesting video, bro. Yeah, appreciate y'all for watching this shit, man. We gonna come up this summer. We's coming up, bro. I promise we's coming up like shit. But yeah, appreciate y'all for watching this shit, and we's out of here.